Pet of the Week is sponsored by Coastal Kia.
All right, introductions on our Friday morning. This is Aster. He's been with the Pender Humane Society now since September. Think of that. That's a long time, almost a year now. She and her two sisters were surrendered to the Humane Society. They had been ingesting rat bait from the strays in Pender County. Aster and her sisters had spent a week in the emergency clinic, and you know what? They all made it. And since then, her sisters have been adopted, and sweet Aster really waiting for her forever home. Again, she's been there since September. She is up to date on her vaccinations, spayed, and most of all, she loves people. She just turned 1 year old yesterday. Hopes to spend her next birthday in her forever home. Look at that smile. Eager to please, right? Call the number on your screen for details on how to adopt. Again, we wish her and you, if you're opening up your heart and your home, the best of luck.